The story of Tia Mowry and Cory Hardrict has always been one that the public followed closely. When they first announced their separation, many people were heartbroken because to fans, they seemed like the perfect couple who had stood by each other through everything. Even after their split, both Tia and Cory publicly showed respect and maturity, making it clear that their children and their family's peace would always come first. People admired the way they handled such a painful chapter of their lives with dignity. For a long time, it felt like the chapter had been closed, and both had moved on in their own ways. But now that calm has been shaken by something unexpected. Cory's new wife has suddenly stepped into the spotlight in a way no one saw coming. Until now, she had mostly remained in the background, but her recent actions have completely changed the narrative. Out of nowhere, a personal and private voice note connected to Tia was leaked, and it came directly from Cory's new wife. This single move brought Tia's name back into headlines and sparked a storm of conversations online. What was supposed to be a quiet and private matter was now open for the world to hear. The moment the voice note surfaced, it spread like wildfire across social media platforms. At first, many people didn't believe it was real, but as more clips circulated online, curiosity turned into shock. The voice note carried Tia's voice, raw and filled with emotions that she had never shared publicly. In it, she seemed to be expressing pain, disappointment, and struggles from her past with Cory, words that were clearly never meant for the public to hear. These were confessions of a woman who had once carried the weight of holding a marriage together, all while protecting her children and her own dignity. What made the situation even more controversial was the source of the leak. It wasn't some anonymous insider or a random gossip page. It was Cory's new wife who put it out there. For many people, this crossed a boundary that should never have been touched. Personal matters, especially ones involving a family and children, are sacred. The act of leaking something so private felt less like exposing the truth and more like an attack on Tia's character. Within hours, the internet became divided. Some claimed the leak showed that Tia had been hiding her real emotions all along. Others defended her fiercely, saying the voice note should have never seen the light of day. Journalists, bloggers, and fans began dissecting every word, trying to find hidden meanings and deeper truths. What was once a private pain now became public entertainment, and it left Tia in an impossible position, forced to watch her most vulnerable words be consumed by the world. The leak didn't just put Tia in the spotlight again, it reopened wounds she had worked hard to heal. And while many voices debated the morality of what had been done, one thing was clear: this was more than gossip, this was personal betrayal made public. As the voice note continued to spread, the public reaction was immediate and intense. Social media platforms lit up with hashtags, comments, and endless debates about what had just happened. Some people expressed shock at hearing Tia's vulnerable words, saying they never imagined she had carried so much hidden pain during her marriage. To them, the note revealed a side of her that showed strength but also deep wounds, a reminder that even those who appear strong in public often fight silent battles behind closed doors. But at the same time, many were outraged, not at Tia, but at the act of leaking the note itself. Fans and followers criticized Cory's new wife for stepping into a past that didn't belong to her. They questioned why she felt the need to drag Tia into the spotlight again, especially when the actress had made it clear she only wanted peace and privacy. The idea that a woman would expose another woman's private struggles did not sit well with a large part of the audience, and words like disrespectful, petty, and unnecessary filled comment sections everywhere. The media picked up the story almost instantly, turning it into headline news. Blogs, entertainment channels, and online magazines began analyzing every detail, with some even speculating about the new wife's intentions. Was it jealousy? Was it an attempt to prove a point? Or was it simply a reckless decision made without thinking about the consequences? No matter the reason, the damage was already done, and Tia's name was once again at the center of a storm she never asked for. For Tia's loyal supporters, this was the last straw. They rallied behind her, flooding her social media with messages of love and encouragement. Many reminded her that she didn't owe anyone an explanation and that her dignity spoke louder than any leaked note ever could. But the truth was, Tia was human, and no matter how much support she received, the pain of seeing her private words turned into drama was something she could not simply brush aside. For days after the voice note leak, Tia Mowry chose silence. She watched as her name trended online, as strangers argued over her past, and as her most private words were pulled apart by people who had no idea what it was like to live her reality. At first, many believed she would simply ignore the situation the way she had always done in the past, choosing grace and silence over confrontation. But this time was different. This time, the wound was too deep and the line had been crossed. When Tia finally decided to speak out, it was not in the polished, carefully measured way the public had seen before. It was raw, it was honest, and it was filled with emotion. In her statement, she made it clear that she had endured enough. She explained that the voice note had been a personal release, something never intended for the world to hear. It was not meant to be a weapon, and it was certainly not meant to be used as entertainment. For her, hearing her most vulnerable moment being treated like gossip was humiliating. Her words carried the pain of betrayal, but they also carried strength. She expressed her disappointment, not just at the act of leaking her voice, but at the complete disregard for her humanity. Tia reminded everyone that behind the headlines, she is a woman, a mother, and someone who has fought hard to protect her peace. She admitted that she was angry, not because the world now knew her struggles, but because the choice to share them had been stolen from her. What struck people the most was how direct she was. Tia rarely snapped publicly, but this time, her tone left no room for doubt. She was hurt, she was furious, and she was tired of being disrespected. She spoke about boundaries, about the importance of respect after a marriage ends, and about the need to protect children from the fallout of adult mistakes. Her message was not just for Cory's new wife, it was for anyone who thought it was acceptable to invade her privacy or exploit her pain for attention. The moment Tia's response went public, the internet shifted. People who had been divided before now stood with her. Her honesty made it clear that she was no longer willing to be silent when her dignity was on the line. For many fans, this was the first time they had seen Tia break through her calm exterior and let the world know that she too had limits. She was no longer just the graceful actress handling life with a smile. She was a woman demanding respect, and her voice was louder than the leaked note could ever be. As Tia's powerful response spread across every corner of the internet, all eyes quickly turned to Cory Hardrict. After all, his new wife was at the center of the storm, and whether he liked it or not, his silence was beginning to look like agreement. Fans, journalists, and even other celebrities started questioning where he stood. Did he support what his wife had done, or did he feel the same sense of violation that Tia expressed so openly? For Cory, this moment was complicated. On one hand, he was a husband, expected to stand beside his new wife. On the other hand, he was also the father of Tia's children, and the leak had hurt not just Tia, but the stability of the family they once built together. Remaining silent was no longer an option, but speaking out meant risking even more chaos. The pressure built as his social media accounts were flooded with comments demanding answers. Every post he had ever shared was now overshadowed by questions about the voice note. When Cory finally addressed the issue, his words were cautious, almost guarded. He admitted that the situation had spiraled out of control, and that it was never his intention for Tia's private words to become public. Without directly criticizing his new wife, he acknowledged that the leak had been a mistake, and that it caused pain no one deserved. He reminded people that Tia was still the mother of his children and deserved respect regardless of their past. But even in trying to calm the storm, Cory's statement sparked more debate. Some felt he wasn't firm enough, that he should have openly condemned the actions of his wife. Others believed he was trying to balance loyalty to his marriage with responsibility to his children, trapped in a situation with no easy way out. To many, his words felt like walking on eggshells, carefully chosen to avoid placing blame, but not strong enough to truly defend Tia. The result was a man caught in the middle of two worlds. Cory's position became a reflection of the complexity of blended families, past relationships, and the fragile boundaries that exist when private pain becomes public drama. No matter what he said, one truth remained clear: the damage had already been done, and repairing the trust between all sides would not be easy. Amid all the noise, the debates, and the public finger-pointing, one thing became painfully clear: those who were suffering the most were not but the children caught in the middle. For Tia, this was the most heartbreaking part of the entire situation. Her children had already endured the difficulty of watching their parents separate, and now they were old enough to sense when something was wrong. Seeing their mother's name splashed across headlines, hearing whispers at school, or stumbling across cruel comments online created wounds that words alone could not heal. Tia spoke openly about this in her follow-up response. She explained that while she was hurt for herself, her greatest pain came from knowing that her children had to watch her be humiliated so publicly. As a mother, every instinct in her body told her to protect them, shield them from the cruelty of the world, and give them a safe place where they didn't have to carry the weight of adult mistakes. But in this moment, she felt powerless, because the damage wasn't just in her control anymore. For Cory, the situation also raised difficult questions. No matter where he stood in the public's eyes, he knew his children were now at the center of a firestorm that should have never reached them. As a father, he faced the guilt of seeing their names connected to a story that had nothing to do with them, all because of a choice made by someone in his life. His attempt to remain neutral wasn't just about avoiding conflict. It was about trying to protect the innocence of his children from the chaos around them. The public also began to reflect on this side of the story. Many fans shifted the conversation away from drama and toward compassion, reminding everyone that at the end of the day, two young children were being forced to carry the weight of decisions made by adults. What might have seemed like entertainment for the world was, for them, a very real source of pain and confusion. This part of the story reminded people of a powerful truth. When private battles are dragged into the public eye, the scars often run the deepest on the most innocent hearts. And for Tia, this was the real reason she snapped, not because her own pride was hurt, but because her children were being pulled into something they never asked for. In the days that followed, the chaos slowly began to settle, but the impact of the leaked voice note could not be undone. For Tia, this moment became a turning point. Instead of letting the scandal define her, she used it as fuel to remind herself and the world that her strength has never come from staying silent, but from standing tall in the face of disrespect. She made it clear that her peace and her children's well-being would always come before public approval, gossip, or drama. Her decision to speak up, to set boundaries, and to defend her dignity won her even greater respect from fans. Many saw her not just as an actress or a public figure, but as a woman who had survived heartbreak, betrayal, and now public humiliation, yet still carried herself with grace. Her voice, once used against her, became her greatest weapon, allowing her to reclaim control of her own story. For Cory's new wife, the backlash was undeniable. What might have been intended as a moment of power quickly turned into regret, as the public criticized her harshly for crossing a line that should never have been touched. Instead of winning sympathy or attention, she found herself painted as the antagonist in a story that was never hers to tell. As for Cory, he remained stuck in the middle, His attempts to smooth things over could not erase the fact that the people closest to him had been deeply hurt. His image may have survived, but his silence and hesitation left many questioning his role in protecting the people who once mattered most. In the end, the incident became less about the leaked note and more about the lessons it carried. It showed how fragile respect can be after a separation, how quickly private pain can become public spectacle, and how important it is to protect children from the shadows of adult conflict. For Tia, however, the final word was not about pain, but about resilience. She reminded everyone that no matter what is said, no matter what is leaked, and no matter what storms may come, her strength cannot be silenced. And in the eyes of those who admire her, she walked away not as a victim of betrayal, but as a woman who turned her breaking point into a moment of power. The leaked voice note may have been silenced in the media, but behind closed doors, the relationships between these three people were forever changed. Could Tia and Cory ever rebuild trust as co-parents? Would Cory's new marriage survive the backlash? And most importantly, could the children ever be shielded from the shadows of this scandal? Tia stood firm, refusing to be broken, but the truth is, healing doesn't happen overnight. Some wounds don't fade with time, they simply teach us how to live differently. And in this case, the world was left to wonder, what would come next? Would forgiveness win, or would the cracks only